Good morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and today we've got a lot to be talking about around the Australian weather scene. We're going to start things off with a cold front expected to impact South Australia, Victoria and Tasmania over the coming 48 hours before we take a look at central Queensland where some heavy rainfall is expected there. We're going to then talk about a powerful cold front expected to impact Western Australia, and then that cold front will move into South Australia, New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania where we're expecting some severe weather there in about a week's time. But we're going to start things off over in South Australia, New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania where that cold front is moving through right now. If you haven't already, then please do consider subscribing to the channel and also leave a like on the video while you're at it. Your support is greatly appreciated. Zooming in right now, you can see that cold front just crossing the coast about now. Like I said yesterday, we're expecting that strong winds and heavy rainfall to start around the Adelaide metro about lunchtime today, and that's exactly what we're seeing on the rain forecast here, with that heavy rainfall starting to pipe up in the Adelaide metro as you get later on into this afternoon, clearing out by this evening by the looks of things, but still some heavy showers expected to hang around the Adelaide area and right throughout the Eyre Peninsula for that matter, right from the South Australia-Victoria border right through about Ceduna, including the oyster farming communities between Ceduna and Port Lincoln, the agricultural communities on the Eyre Peninsula, expecting some good rainfall throughout the course of today. Nothing crazy, but 20 millimetres or 30 millimetres in one or two locations is certainly possible throughout the rest of today until about 9 a.m. tomorrow, when the rainfall will ease off a little bit in terms of intensity, but become a little bit more widespread. But still, nonetheless, that moderate rainfall, those moderate to heavy showers at times expected to continue throughout the Adelaide area, even right down towards Kangaroo Island for the next about 36, maybe even 48 hours or so, until about Wednesday morning when they will start to ease off. But this is going to equate to some pretty big rainfall accumulations for one or two places. The rain showers are going to be reasonably slow moving. They will be sparse and pretty hard to forecast in terms of their movement, but they will be reasonably heavy, and for locations to get themselves underneath one, that will equate to some very heavy rainfall for some locations. Dare I say up to 80 millimetres is possible for some locations across South Australia over the next 48 hours. Adelaide really does look to be in a hot seat for some good rainfall as well. That's just talking about South Australia, completely neglecting the fact that Victoria and Tasmania are also expecting some decent rainfall as well. It's easier if I show you on the rainfall accumulation map here. You can see a lot of locations between Ceduna and Port Lincoln expecting at least 20 millimetres, and some locations expecting accumulations as high as 60 millimetres over the next 3 days. And you can see here on Kangaroo Island as well, from those slow-moving showers, up to 70 millimetres expected, but the holy grail of rainfall is south of Adelaide. Look at this, up to 130 millimetres is possible. Adelaide itself expecting 60, and the hills just outside of Adelaide also expecting some very healthy rainfall accumulations there. Now, I would not take this 100%, this forecast model right here. The forecast is going to be a very hard one for rainfall, and the rainfall as well will be very hit and miss for locations. There will be places that get hardly any rainfall, and then locations up the road that will get 30 or 40 millimetres. So don't be surprised if rainfall is very sparse and very hit and miss in some locations, especially as you get further inland, but there will be places on the Eyre Peninsula that get up to 40 or 50 millimetres of rainfall. Widespread totals above 10 millimetres, though, are expected if you're within 100 kilometres of the coastline on the Eyre Peninsula there. That is great news for the agricultural communities. Unfortunately, though, in the southeastern corner of South Australia, where they desperately need some rainfall, it does not make it inland. There's only totals between 1 and 10 millimetres there. The rainfall does pick up a little bit in Victoria, but again, really not much rainfall expected there in the agricultural communities of Victoria. It's just going to be around the coast of South Australia and on the Eyre Peninsula where the rainfall is going to be at its highest. Slow moving showers once again, very hard to predict rainfall, and also very hit and miss rainfall, I might add. But yeah, just hoping for the best for some of these communities that really do need the rainfall there. Tasmania itself expecting a healthy handful of rainfall too, up to 50 millimetres on the north coast around Stanley and Devonport, Burnie, that sort of area. 70 to 80 millimetres expected there in the next 3 days. Most of that will be coming through tomorrow and into Wednesday morning, hopefully easing off by about Thursday morning by the looks of things. And yeah, that rainfall clearing out of South Australia by Thursday morning, looking like it will be a fine day for inland communities on Thursday. A little bit of cool conditions conditions expected though Thursday and into Friday for South Australia before the next cold front comes through. In terms of snow accumulation for the next 3 days from this cold front, negligible amounts are expected across Victoria and New South Wales. The highlands could expect a couple of centimetres here and there. Tasmania really not expecting any snowfall at all. But yeah, just to note that there could be a chance of some snowfall in the elevated communities around Victoria into New South Wales and Tasmania. So just going to draw the forecast back to the current time right now. There is a little bit of rainfall just starting to pipe itself up around the parts of far north Queensland that we've been talking about for the last 5 months or so for heavy rainfall. They've gone about 2 or 3 weeks without that significant rainfall accumulations, but there is a little bit of rainfall back on the cards now for far north Queensland and even into central Queensland over the coming couple of days. And I missed this in yesterday's forecast, but we're going to be seeing a trough develop offshore from the Queensland coastline. Once again, great model congruency between all the major forecast models, and it looks like some great thunderstorm activity expected to pipe up from Tuesday morning into early Tuesday afternoon, and that will continue right through Wednesday and into early Thursday morning for a lot of north and central Queensland. Townsville and Mackay and locations between there expecting the worst of the thunderstorm activity, and it looks like once again locations could be expecting up to 100 millimetres of rainfall, and this rainfall does look to be good news because it's rainfall that they haven't well, it's the rainfall that they've missed out over the past 6 weeks or so where it's been a lot drier up there. And this is just rainfall to top up the dams just a little bit more and get them through what could be a longer than usual dry season. They do just need that rainfall to top themselves up until November or December. Up in far north Queensland, not so much of a concern, but just to get the dam levels back up to around the 95, 98 percentile marks around Townsville and Mackay, that sort of area. This rainfall will be very helpful at doing that. There's no major rainfall events forecast in the next 3 months or so. It is their dry season, so this little bit of rainfall is certainly very helpful. And look at this, over the next 3 days, Townsville itself expecting around 30 millimetres or so in terms of peak rainfall accumulations. Just outside, it's going to be a little bit hit and miss, but there will be places picking up to 30 or 50 millimetres. Charters Towers a healthy 30 millimetres. Just outside there, though, 70 millimetres. And between Bowen down towards Mackay, Airlie Beach, Hamilton Island, up to 100 millimetres is on the forecast there. So some very healthy rainfall accumulations are now on the cards up there. Cairns looks like it's going to miss out. The Daintree, though, could get up towards 25 or 30 millimetres of rainfall, just enough to get those rivers flowing once again. It's certainly not going to be a flooding emergency up here. This rainfall will just run off into the rivers, and there is no risk of flooding at all from this weather event unless we do get accumulations above 200 millimetres, which once again is not on the forecast here, but anything can happen up in the tropics, and we will be needing to keep a very close eye on this weather system. Like I said, reciprocated amongst the other forecast models, the GFS calling for slightly less rainfall inland, but still a little bit of rainfall on the coast. It's a low resolution model, so it does struggle with rainfall accumulation. The Access G3 expecting the least of all the rainfall, which is interesting, but still the bulk of it between Cairns and Townsville, whereas the Eastern WF model, which I'd class to be the most reliable here, is expecting the majority of the rainfall between Townsville and Mackay and inland towards Glendon and Charters Towers. And the Icon model as well, one that we could also be looking at just to get a full scope of the picture, not expecting any rainfall around the tropical coast, but a lot inland here, still up to 50 millimetres around Muttaburra, right down towards Emerald and Rolleston. Some very good rainfall accumulations expected there. But we'll just take a quick look at soil moisture values up here in far north Queensland. They're really starting to dry out at this time. And we're looking at soil moisture values inland in the single digits. Closer to the coast, they're still hovering at around 50 to 70%, which is still typical for this time of the year, and certainly considering how much rainfall they have had this wet season. Certainly still some very wet soil moisture values up there, but they are a little bit drier than average at this time. Just outside of the Daintree, everything is looking a little bit drier than average, so this rainfall will just get the rainforest blooming once again and will make a great wildflower season up in northern parts of eastern Australia. And they are on this map, interestingly, coming into a little bit of drought, which is something I didn't really expect up here. I think this might just be really overdoing it, really overestimating it, but we're looking at minor to mild drought conditions here, and that's probably because they haven't had any significant rainfall in the past 6 weeks to the past 2 months. So a little bit of food for thought up there. The rainfall certainly is, well, not needed, but it will be appreciated up in this part of far north Queensland. That's a lot of talking for far North Queensland for what's only going to be a couple of drops of rainfall. So now we're going to move over to Western Australia and talk about a powerful weather system that's expected to cross the coast sometime later this week. It's not currently on the satellite picture. I've zoomed right out here, but this is the weather system that we're going to be talking about. It's a strong cold front here, and it is racing towards the West Australian coastline, and it will be arriving sometime late Wednesday and into Thursday. You can see this here. Actually, the cold front itself expected to build from Wednesday morning and crossing the coast around the Perth metro area about Wednesday afternoon. But it looks like, because of how big it is, it breaks off into two parts, and it's once again going to be the northern parts of the wheat belt and into the Murchison and Gascoyne region of Western Australia that gets the most rainfall out of this cold front, which is highly unusual. It's been a very weird winter weather system, winter weather season rather, where we've had a lot of cold fronts like this which break away and drench communities between Kalbarri and Geraldton and inland towards Meekatharra and Mount Magnet, where they've had some very good rainfall out there. And it looks like the southwest does remain a little bit dry here. Perth itself expecting hardly any rainfall from the initial front, probably only about 10 millimetres, and that's why the rainfall forecast for Wednesday from the Bureau of Meteorology is between 3 and 30 millimetres of the Perth metro. It's a huge scope of uncertainty here, and I'm going to be leaning on the lower side of that. I reckon Wednesday will be relatively dry, only 5 to 10 millimetres expected there, although there is a chance that once again that could blow out. But just by looking at this weather system here on the forecast, it really doesn't look like Perth is going to be in for much rainfall on Wednesday. Thursday, though, it could be a different story. We're going to see this low pressure system jump up north of Perth, actually, which once again is highly unusual, and it's going to be bringing these very strong winds, heavy rainfall, thunderstorm activity as well, right through the Lewin Current, where it's going to cause some pretty significant thunderstorms, I do imagine, for areas between Perth and Geraldton. Communities between Perth and Geraldton, including Jurien Bay and Lancelin, expecting a very good helping handful of rainfall through Thursday, possibly up to 50 millimetres of the stuff as well. And even inland communities between Kalgoorlie right through to the line of Carnarvon or Exmouth, including all of the inland Murchison and Gascoyne regions, expecting at least 20 millimetres or so from this weather system, which will cause hell for all the road authorities in there. They're going to be shutting roads left, right and centre from this rainfall, that's for sure. But it looks like, once again, Perth does miss out on the rainfall. They will still get a good helping of rainfall down in Perth. The southern suburbs, it's a little bit less likely that they're going to get a good helping of rainfall, and unfortunately the southwest agricultural communities around Katanning and Lake Grace expecting to be high and dry once again. They desperately do need some rainfall down there, but rainfall for Perth on Thursday should be around the 20 to maybe 25 millimetre threshold, and it will be heavy showers, strong winds, locally damaging winds as well, especially for the northern suburbs, and isolated thunderstorms here and there. So it will be a true winter stay on Thursday, and then as this cold front and this low pressure system moves inland, it's going to be the south coast that gets blasted with heavy rainfall, damaging winds from the southeast as well. It's a highly unusual weather system that we're looking at here. Normally these low pressure balls stay south of the south coast around 37 or 38 degrees south. It's about as far north as they get, well south of Albany and the south coast, but this one here is going to be crossing the coast north of Perth, so the pressure is going to be really low, and the weather system is going to be behaving completely differently to how they normally act, and winds are likely going to be from the complete opposite way from where they normally come in these weather systems, from the southeast, especially as you get down towards the south coast. So just a heads up, this is a highly unusual winter weather system to come ashore, but a lot of rainfall is still nonetheless expected unless you live in those agricultural communities in the southwest and the Great Southern. They are looking high and dry, unfortunately. But just taking a look at this over the next 10 days, some very good rainfall expected between Geraldton right down towards Bunbury and Busselton, including the Perth coastal regions, widespread up to 70 millimetres of rainfall expected. Perth itself expecting 40 millimetres. I believe the bulk of that will be coming Thursday and into Friday morning. I think Wednesday will be the dry day out of all of this. Certainly still going to be some showers around and possibly some storms for the western suburbs, but still looking like it's going to be a relatively dry day. The south coast expecting some very good rainfall, up to 70 or 80 millimetres there. And like I said, inland communities in the northern wheat belt, the central wheat belt, expecting at least 30 or 40 millimetres as a kind of high-end estimate, and widespread totals above 20 millimetres expected. But like I said, areas around Katanning, Mount Barker are really dry, only 6 or 7 millimetres, and they desperately need some rainfall down there. So we're really getting late into the planting season. Planting season's basically already over now for farmers down there, so it's going to be a really rough harvest for the locations around Mount Barker and Katanning, unfortunately, this year, unless they get some rainfall in the next week, which doesn't look awfully likely, but we're hoping for the best down there. And a lot of rainfall across the northern parts of Western Australia as well that I haven't mentioned in this part of the video. Up to 25 millimetres expected on the Pilbara coastline between Karratha and Exmouth. That's interesting. We're going to wait and see how that one pans out. And some good rainfall expected through the Northern Territory into Queensland on the front end of this weather system, which will be moving through into the next part of our video. It's going to be moving through into the east coast and bringing in an awful lot of rainfall to locations in South Australia. They could be seeing up to 25 millimetres on Saturday from this weather system. Victoria expecting possibly up to 15 or 20 millimetres of just steady, moderate rainfall through Saturday evening and into Sunday morning, and a very powerful low pressure system expected to impact Tasmania Sunday the 30th of June and into Monday the 1st of July. We're expecting some good rainfall through Tasmania and into Victoria and New South Wales. It's a big weather system though. Look at how much area this covers. Moderate rainfall expected through New South Wales. That's going to equate to rainfall accumulations between 5 and 25 millimetres for a lot of areas in the inland communities of New South Wales, especially through the north and the northeast. Tasmania itself expecting about 120 millimetres for the wettest of locations around Penguin over the next 10 days. Strawn as well expecting at least 50 or 60 millimetres from this weather system. And snow, I've just seen the snow forecast for this. Some very good snowfall accumulations expected from this weather system Saturday, Sunday and into Monday the 1st of July. We're expecting 20 to 25 centimetres and one or two spots actually up to 35 centimetres on the highest of elevations around Thredbo and Perisher Valley in New South Wales, and some good accumulations in Victoria and Tasmania as well. We're going to be talking a lot more about this weather system once the immediate threat of rainfall in Queensland, the weather system in Western Australia, and also the rainfall for South Australia, Victoria and Tasmania passes. So later on this week, I'll have a much more detailed forecast on that weather system and its expected impacts for Victoria, New South Wales and Tasmania, because it does look like a big one, but there is still a little bit of uncertainty in regards to the forecast. If I've missed anything, then please do let me know in the comment section down below. I'd be more than happy to answer all of your questions. A special shout out to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now. I could not run this show without them, and their support is greatly appreciated. If you haven't already, then please do leave a like on the video and also subscribe if you haven't. Your support is much appreciated, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.